Agenda for today, again, we're talking Twitter. I'm going to cover things like sourcing, messaging, content, how to post jobs, and within that, we'll look at a couple of tools and things as well to help you along. So if you are on Twitter, again, just use the hashtag talent, and we'll pick those up. I see a couple of folks have already used it. You can also follow us on #_talent. And then all the previous recordings are on hashtagtalent.com. You'll see top right-hand corner, there is a little button with blog on it. The Facebook one is not up from a week ago, but it will be up over the weekend. So speaking of Twitter, which is actually my favorite platform for recruitment, because what I like about Twitter is it's a series of now moments. And the rest of the platforms, Facebook and LinkedIn, is yesterday's moments. Now, what that means is Facebook is instant communication, and that's what I really like about it. If you take that 140 characters and you take the instant communication away, there's not really much to Twitter anymore. But what I do like about it is that it was built for talking to people you don't know. Facebook limits you probably to the people that you have met in real life, friends and family. LinkedIn is more or less for business connections, but Twitter allows you to talk to anyone you don't know, which is really cool for recruitment, because most of the people you'll recruit you won't really know and you haven't really met in anyway. In South Africa, there's about 5 million, I think, people on Twitter. That has doubled in size in 2012, so it went from, I think, somewhere in the region of 2.2 to 5 in the last couple of months. And monthly there, and this is worldwide, there's about 500,000 jobs being posted on Twitter. So it definitely is a force in terms of generating clicks and interest to your site or to wherever your jobs are posted or your content is posted. But when you start using Twitter, I think it's essential that you have an objective. You got to know what you're going to use it for, and there's a couple of things you can do. Is it for jobs? A lot of companies use the Twitter handles, life at this company, life at Microsoft, life at Starbucks, life at whatever. And it just gives people a flavor for what it's like to work there. Maybe it's your company career site. So you talk about, if you employ a lot of salespeople, you talk about the sales career, you talk about the evolution of a salesperson, what benefits you'll be having by working for your specific company. And maybe it's just a jobs account. So maybe you just fire out jobs through that, which is also fine. Maybe it's a mix of those three accounts. But you've got to figure out what you want to use it for. Is it for having conversations regarding industry happenings? Is it about having an opinion? Is it about using it as a feedback and a support channel regarding jobs and job applications? A lot of companies in South Africa, like MWeb, has a really strong presence for support. So when you sign up for ADSL or when you have problems, their Twitter account is normally much quicker to respond than you can get through a call center. So you can do the same for jobs. If people want to know how far their application is, what they want to use it for, they want to talk to a recruiter, Twitter is a pretty good channel to use for that. And maybe you just want to build it for some employer branding, which is also a great idea. So think about what you want to use it for. I've highlighted 3 examples here. Twitter in itself, they use a Twitter account for their recruitment called Join the Flock. And basically it's just about, all the details about, who they're hiring, the jobs, what they're doing, really nice photos, videos. It's a great account. They do often tweet really interesting stuff, and I think they're doing a cracking job at it. Starbucks jobs, they've got a few interesting things in their timeline here. So they've got things like tweets from Maxine, so immediately you'll see a person at Starbucks. They've also got a really cool hashtag to be a partner. They call all their baristas that work for them, they call them partners. And that hashtag, if you run that as a search on Twitter, you'll see all the people that work for them and what they do on a daily basis. So I think it's a really nice way to humanize that process again. And they also, what they do is they put the names and they change the names to different recruiters or people that tweet from that account. And then, of course, Microsoft. What they do, they've got 2 accounts. They've got the Microsoft Jobs, which is this one, which tweets generic information about what it's like working there, 28,000 followers. But then they also have the main Microsoft account, which has got about 2,000 less tweets than the other one, but they've got 2 million followers. Now, I think if this was me running these 2 accounts, I would probably combine them, because I think Microsoft will get a lot more reach for their jobs and for that, if they do it in a clever way and just combine the 2. So the one has 2 million followers, which makes more sense to do it that way. But that's the way they set it up. It's two different accounts. I would probably make it one, because they'll get a lot more reach through that. And then, of course, the second part of this is your audience. Who are you trying to reach when you go onto Twitter? I think here's where workforce planning becomes really, really essential. You got to know who you're trying to recruit. Is it active? Is it passive candidates? Is it industry thought leaders? Do you want to engage clients? Do you want to engage current employees? So that your content that you plan attract those kind of people. And make sure your bio is reflective of your objective. So when you're looking to attract an audience, the content you put out will attract that kind of people. So if you're going to hire salespeople or engineers or developers, make sure your content is relevant towards that audience. And when you're setting up, I normally use this example because I think it's a very easy setup. You can see this is by a person called Ari Ball. She's the Vice President of Talent Acquisition at Sodexo. And it's a really simple setup of a profile. But what I like about it is it's branded at the back, so you can see who she works for. You can see she's she's the Vice President of Talent Acquisition. She's got almost 7,000 followers, which is probably more now. So it's an easy and it's a nice branding exercise to showcase your people working for your company, showcase your recruiters, or showcase the people that's in charge of human resources. Some of the other examples I quite like as well is if you're doing this as a team, that was a single person. If you involve your whole team, I think 3 UK Support, which is a mobile network in the UK, they've done a cracking job as to showcase the people as well. So you'll see on the right-hand side all the people that tweet on this account, and they've all got like signatures. On the tweet, you can actually see who you're talking to. And they also give you a lot of information down the left-hand side in terms of they are online from 9 to 5:30. There's other sites you can get information from. And this is kind of their support channel. So if you look at this from a recruitment perspective, having all your recruiters on the one side, and other places where you can touch base with your recruiters or with your HR department, it's a real cool way of showcasing your people. And then the last one, which I've also used, which is one from Morrison's in the UK. And what they've done, they've just added phone numbers. So if you want to tweet us or if you want to call us, there's a number, and there's the rest of our social channels. Setting up, look at your bio. Is it what it says on the label? Are you a recruiter? What are you recruiting for? What do you do? What do you like? Make sure your photos are on there. Make sure there's a little bit of branding on there as well. If you're using this from a company perspective, there's always the options of either going for like a Microsoft type account versus a personal account. I think they both have pros and cons. Whether you allow your staff to tweet and engage from a professional level on their accounts as well, or whether you create company accounts for them so they can interact in a company capacity. And then think about your social policy. When you start letting your staff loose on social media, I think it's a good idea not to control them, but just to have your processes in place and have a social policy there, so they know, rather instead of not telling them not what to do, but tell them, this is the broad framework, just operate within this, and everyone won't have a problem. So just in terms of posting content, we touched a little bit on a content strategy. It's important to post on a regular basis and monitor your follower growth. Figure out what's the best time to tweet. I'll show you some examples now when your targets might be online, so they actually see your jobs, they see your content, and then start measuring what content is getting shared, where you're getting your most retweets, where you're getting your most favorites from, what kind of content gets higher engagement level than the others. And then, of course, use hashtag, either create your own, hijack existing hashtags, or use conferences, which we'll talk about just now. When it comes to generating content, there's a couple of tools that we use on a daily basis and as a team, because I think generating content and collecting content is a team effort. We use a couple of tools. One, which is probably what everyone uses here in the office, which is tweetdeck.com. And TweetDeck is available for most devices, phones, iPads, computers, web, wherever. And that allows you to post your updates, schedule your updates, manage your responses all in one system. So that's just tweetdeck.com. Hootsuite.com is a very similar tool, and I think most people would use either the one or the other one. Again, you can schedule to send your updates to LinkedIn, Facebook pages, LinkedIn groups. All can be done through Hootsuite or TweetDeck. Very useful tools. But when it comes to actually generating content, since they discontinued or shut down Google Reader, I think a lot of people have moved on to Feedly. That's an RSS reader. So what that does is it collects all your feeds and all your stories and all the blogs that you read in one place. So we scan through our feed on Feedly, and then we just star or select articles we think fits in with our theme for a week. So this week we talk a lot about Twitter for recruitment, how to be clever, how to use Twitter, how to engage employees and people online using this platform. So all the content that goes out this week, we pick up in Feedly and we start. Once we start, it goes to a system called Buffer. Now, what Buffer does, it Buffer schedules your updates for you. So you select the times your people is going to be online. So if you want to send out maybe a tweet at 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock, 9:15, you can schedule it so it goes out at those times, which kind of prevents, because I know most people, they don't have time for Twitter. They come online, they post 15 updates, then they go offline for a week again, come back, do exactly the same. And this creates a lot more consistency in your posting, and it's a little bit better for engagement. So what this gives you, it gives you custom time to distribute your content, and also gives you, analytics. When is your things being clicked on? What is being clicked on? What's being shared? So Buffer, you can check that out. It's bufferapp.com. In addition to that, most of the folks in the office here also use iPads, and then there is this app called Zeit. It's a personalized magazine, and what that also does, you set the topic. So when it's social recruiting or Twitter or technology, it collects articles or popular articles across the web and puts them in a very much like a magazine look and feel. And then what we do from here, if we find anything interesting, and most of the team here spends about an hour in the morning or an hour in the afternoon just collecting information about the topic we're talking about. Once they do that, again, it goes into Buffer. We also use something called pocket.com, and you can get that on getpocket.com, where people can email interesting articles to our company account. And what happens from there, it also gets curated by one person and then goes into Buffer, which sends it out at the right time. And then the final one that we use, which is these tools are wonderful things, and it allows you to automate some of the tasks that you don't want to do on a regular basis. So most of the things we automate is, things like if we connect with people online, they change jobs, we want to know about it. So what this tool does, and it's called If This Then That, and the website is just ifttt.com, ifthisthen-that.com. And what this does, it allows you to create, they call it recipes online, where this one specifically we created is if any one of my connections adds a new position on their LinkedIn profile, then it puts that into a spreadsheet that I can monitor at the end of each week. So it allows for building my network. It allows for consistently keeping up with people that we target, which is a nice thing because you don't have time every day to go sit and look through your LinkedIn connections and who's changed jobs. So at the end of each week, we can have a look through, who's changed jobs. Maybe we want to communicate with some of those people, wish them well. And it's just a way of keeping in touch. And it's always building your network, always interacting with people and using this automation to make that really easy. So that's a very clever tool. There's other recipes I've got as well in there. Maybe Twitter connections that favorite things, Twitter connections that retweet stuff. You want to see that, ifthisthen-that.com. Great tool to use that for. Then if we get into the sourcing, again, I used this last week where I used the hashtag TechZA, which was a hashtag for a SharePoint conference. So I think I'm going to use this to get into the sourcing bit of it, just to show you, what is the things that you really can do. So that hashtag I picked up as I was sourcing through Facebook. I picked up TechZA, and once you put that in Twitter, you'll see the results I get. There's a couple of people there. Guy called Naz Parker, he's blogged about it. There's a guy called Troy Gabbers. You can see if I click on their names, all of these folks, SharePoint manager. This was a SharePoint conference, of course. Now you can see he's a SharePoint manager for Sanlam. If I click on Troy's name there, dad, husband, director, SharePoint guy. Again, nice contact to have if I'm recruiting SharePoint people. And there's a chap at the bottom there called Mark Fletcher. Again, he's a SharePoint evangelist. So what's nice about conferences and picking up these hashtags is you can immediately see a list of people and a list of followers within a certain community, which makes it really easy to recruit them. I also use a tool called Mention Map. You can see that's mentionmap.com. And this just gives you a little bit more insight as into what these people talk. So if we use Naz again as an example there, I can see he's having a lot of conversations within the SharePoint space. I can see there he's spoken to a guy called Gary Ashby about 8 times. There's another guy there. That guy talks about Yammer. He talks about all sorts of other things. But it's an interesting way to find the hashtags and find the conferences and find a community of SharePoint developers which you can potentially recruit. Hashtags. If you don't know what a hashtag means, there's a site called tagdev.com. Type that into tagdev.com and it shows you exactly what the hashtag is for. Also, sites like topsy.com. Again, I can see I typed in TechZA, which is the hashtag. This was in the last 30 days, how many people used it. And what's really cool about this, you can see links. So if there's event blog posts that went up, if there's videos that went up, photographs, it's also cool to see the influencers, so the people that's really influential within this community. Topsocialmention.com, same thing. It gives you whether people are positive about a hashtag, whether they're positive about an experience, gives you the top keywords. So the people that really interact with that hashtag or within that conference, Social Mention and Topsy is probably 2 really cool free tools you can use to monitor those conversations. So again, that sourcing process normally starts with finding the influencers within the community, look for the hashtag, and then start sourcing the followers. Once you start finding the followers, creating lists is also a very useful thing to do. I'll show that now. And then also with the sourcing, there's 2 really strong tools which both are free. One is Follower Wonk and one is the Twitter Advanced Search. I'm going to show you what Follower Wonk looks like. Again, it's followerwonk.com. And it allows you to search basically anything in bios or tweets if you want. So if I'm looking for HR or I'm looking for human resources manager, for instance, and I want that in, let's say I'm going to go for South Africa. I can put in South Africa, I can put in South Africa or Cape Town. And let's run the search and see what we find. So that's doing its business, is running a search. It found 427 people. So if I scroll down, I can see by the amount of tweets, I can list them by the amount of tweets. I can see who's really active within that market. I can see how many followers they've got, how long they've been on social authority. So again, a really nice tool to scan through and find people that you want to do business with. But even better than that, you can analyze these people as well, which is really interesting. So if we look at, let's look at that SharePoint guy again. He was Naz Parker 01. And I just want to analyze their followers. So again, if you find, oops, no data received, let's reload that. So if you find interesting people, you find influencers within a community, then go and see who follows them, see where they are. So I can see there's Naz's profile. It shows me where all his followers sit. You can see he's got about 111 in South Africa. This is really interesting. It shows you when they are online. And even better than that, this is the activity for Naz. So I can see his Twitter habits is normally before work. So if I want to reach him with tweets or jobs, that's normally where I would post. You can see between 7 and 8 is his busiest times. And then in the evening again, between 6, 7, and 8 is where he's active online again. So this follower one gives you a really, and there's a lot more things you can do with it. You can analyze it in a lot more detail. But it's very cool to see when they are online and when their followers are online. You can also see who follows them. So it makes finding similar people to Naz, who's a SharePoint developer, finding similar people quite easy. The other one, which is Twitter search, which is again, the search is just Twitter. So you can see there it's twitter.com/advanced, and you can see all the words. You can search for exact phrase like I'm looking for HR manager. Also really cool. You can see positive or negative question. I normally, as a bit of amusement, I would go and look for any of these words like jobs or career or especially my boss, and then look for the negative comment. So you can also look at within a place, so near South Africa, near Midrand, near Pretoria, near Gauteng, near Sandton, wherever you want. And that'll just look for people that's really unhappy about their jobs. It makes for interesting reading, and who knows, might be in there might be a SharePoint developer that's really unhappy, and you can recruit them as well. So moving right along, there's a bit of a cheat sheet. I'll leave that up on the website as well. And this just shows you how you can search that Twitter advanced search I was just in. So you can see there, you can search for links. So if you're looking for cat pictures or you're looking for jobs, you can just search jobs and then filter colon links, would show you all the job postings. You can search for pictures. You can search for people that message a certain person. It's a very cool and powerful search tool that you can use, which is the Twitter search. So searching and sourcing on Twitter, I put the word in pink there called relevance because you've got to use what you already know. So information from LinkedIn, a lot of people have on their profiles contact info, Twitter handles which you can use. A very untapped resource is things like emails and your current database. So if you have an applicant tracking system sitting somewhere with a lot of emails in it, import those into your Twitter account. It's an easy thing to do. You can see you can if you export from your database or you export from your from Outlook, you can import that into Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail. And then what it will do, it'll look for those email addresses and show you which of the people you already know is on Twitter. Some of the other social connectors and plugins you can put in. I use Reportive quite a bit, and that is, it's kind of email extensions. Outlook has two, which in Zobni and Outlook Social Connector. And what they do every time you send someone an email, so if I click on this, if I send an email to VFS Strauss, which is my Gmail account, I can see down the side of my email exactly what accounts this guy manages, what's his Facebook profile, what's his LinkedIn profile, Google Plus. So I can see where he has presence online, and I can also see what's happening, what he's posting, if he's commenting on things as well. So it's just a way of adding that social layer on top of the information you already know. And I talked about relevance a little bit early on. It just gives you a little bit more detail about who you're communicating with, and it's always about building that network and interacting with people on a daily basis. And then the last part of the webinar is something Twitter launched this week, I think, which is called new custom timelines. And this is something that gives you a little bit more control as to what you put in your timeline, and they call it custom timelines, which you can include tweets that you want. It's only available in tweettech.com for now, so if you want to use it, you have to create an account with tweettech.com. And what this gives you is it gives you control over the tweets that you put within the timeline. So if you think and apply your mind in terms of how can we use that for recruitment, how can we use that for jobs, I think it's useful if you ask your staff maybe something like, give us one tweet as to this particular job. Why do you think it's important for the company? Maybe they want to shoot a little video, 6-second video on Vine, or they want to add an image that describes this job. Maybe a job frequently asked questions. So if someone wants to apply for a job, you invite them to tweet using a certain hashtag. Maybe you want to broadcast successes at your company, interesting things that your staff does. And I think this gives it some personality, because what you can do, and I'm going to show you how that works just now. So I'm here in tweettech.com, and you can see that I just created a fake one called HR Manager Job Tag, for instance. And what you can do, you can take any tweet. I'm just looking at any of these tweets, and I can just drag it into this specific timeline. And what's great about this is once that's done, I can share that time. So I can embed it. So if you have the job spec sitting somewhere on your website under jobs, you can embed the frequently asked questions. Sometimes candidates always ask, what's the salary? What's the working hours? What's this? What's that? So you can put all those things next to the job spec in a embedded timeline on the job spec on your website itself. So you can embed the timeline. You can view that on twitter.com. So when people look at your bio online, they can see maybe you have one of these chats for every job explaining what it's like working there, what's the working hours, what's the conditions, what's the pay. I hope to have you all online next week again. Thank you very much.